goal and purpose of life isn't to do nothing. It's to be engaged in good causes. It's to be building and growing things, which is why you look at all the studies on retirement. Within 5 years of retirement, you're dead because you can't retire from life.
Kris, on Saturday, you said something that I've never heard you say before. I've heard you talk for years about being a billionaire. And on Saturday, for the first time, you said, I don't want to be a billionaire. I want to have $100 billion.
That's because there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I have
That's what I was wondering.
So this is the way I always work.
You moved the goalpost.
I moved the goalpost.
Talk to me about this.
So, this year is a 9-figure growth year for me. And at the rate that I'm growing, I have a guess that I'm not going to be announcing here on how far away that's going to be. And when that happens, that's an achievement for me because I declared when I was not worth more than a few $1,000,000, it was January 15th, 2009.
You were rubbing two nickels together?
Actually, I was holding my father's first dollar bill in the air that he made as a German immigrant to this country.
Oh, wow.
And he was a refugee out of the Second World War and came from some of the hardest times, which is why he did something most Germans don't. He said, I want to leave this country. I want to forsake my country. And I just want a new life, because he had a lot of really, really hard memories and didn't know how to come to grips with them. And so that was a meaningful moment for me. And if you think of, I'll know exactly how many years it took to gestate that first billion. And I know that 3 years later, it'll double. And I have a projection on, by the way, did you know that Buffett didn't become a billionaire until 55? I'm ahead of the curve with this guy. I love his investment strategy, but I've been able to study him and learn from him and many other the greats. And we're doing what every generation does. We make improvements. And so, no, I'm not going to stop at $1 billion. And I think it's very, very reasonable to achieve $100 billion net worth. And so I've made it one of my goals for just $100 billion to my foundation and charities and basically creating ongoing, everlasting legacy.
But okay, so first this idea, a lot of stuff is coming to mind that we've talked about in our conversations, Kris, about the journey versus the destination, about nobility, but this idea of moving the goalpost.
Yeah.
You moved it before you hit it. Most people would be like, I'm going to hit it, and that's when I'll move the goalpost.
So pause. First of all, you have to understand that most people are living in a world where they never get the luxury of moving a goalpost. Because they don't have the long-term habits to hit goals. Most of us act like children that say, well, I'm going to try once, maybe 2 times, maybe 5 times. But if I can't figure out how to do this crazy, big, huge, meaningful thing that would mean the world to me, if I can't figure it out in 3 tries, I'm out. And so most people never really get the opportunity to realize, wait a second, it takes dozens, hundreds of tries. I lost a decade in trying before I learned how to successfully do entrepreneurship. And now it seems like everything we touch has turned to gold because we have wisdom from a lot of what the world would call failures. I don't believe in that term. And so now I just hit all my goals. I have for years. I hit my goals. So when I see I'm coming up on it, don't get me wrong. I will pause and celebrate. I will definitely celebrate. But before I get to the goal, I've already asked myself, what would I manifest next? And I start declaring it, because what it does is it creates velocity in the process. For example, take a diet.
Okay.
Someone says, and let's actually just take me. This is me 15 years ago. I was fighting the battle of the bulge. I always had 30, 40 pounds to lose. And so I was always doing a diet, and then I would lose 20, 30 pounds. I would still look in the mirror and not like what I saw. And then I'd eventually get discouraged, and then I'd go back to my old eating ways, and then I'd put them, this yo-yo effect, so many of us are familiar with. So I was yo-yoing. And after about a decade of this, I said, this is stupid. Are you going to just do what it takes to lose the weight and keep it off? And I had to step into a total different frame of mind. I had to step into bodybuilding and putting muscle on as opposed to trying to lose weight. I said, I'm trying to gain weight to get to my goal. So I finally got coaches. I did things different in over 6 months with a whole lot of belief breakthrough work. I developed a new permanent version of myself that I've maintained. Well,
I'd say you've done more than maintain.
Well, what's happened is I've continued growing.
Right.
I'm getting stronger. I'm getting fitter. I actually got my body scan done at this, I do a lot of preventative medicine. I was sitting at this one studio and they said, Kris, you're 42 years old, but your heart is 33 years old. It is 9 years younger. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. My wife got on, she checked her heart, and it was exactly the age that she is of life. I've done things to train my heart to be younger, to be stronger, and to be a more powerful muscle because I've got very specific goals and reasons for how long I want to live. When I achieved that goal finally, I remember sitting there thinking, man, I wasted a decade because I was always bringing 99% commitment, but never 100%. And can you imagine getting down on bended knee and telling the person you love, I am 99% committed to you. Will you marry me? Like it doesn't work. It's not a happy ending. So most of us we're trying, which means we're exhibiting effort, but we're just not doing. And so I got to the point where I'm like, well, just do it. And when I finally got there, I was like, wait a second. If I get there and if I don't have the next plan, the next goalpost, then there will be a temptation to stay or slide back because it's the natural entropy of life. Everything is staying in motion and knowing nothing really stands still. Someone out there that is listening to this right now that really doesn't challenge themselves, they don't challenge the status quo, they don't read new books, they don't get new information. My guess is your income is the same this year as last year. And my guess is that your weight is the same as last year, but maybe a little worse. Because if you're not doing anything, you're dying. Whatever isn't growing is dying because everything is in motion. So I've learned I got to keep things in motion, which means now I live where I always have my next goal. I'm always looking at the next thing because I'm going to train my focus on something. The goal and purpose of life isn't to do nothing. It's to be engaged in good causes. It's to be building and growing things, which is why you look at all the studies on retirement. Within 5 years of retirement, you're dead. Because you can't retire from life.
Go back to work.
Now, and that's refining some level of purpose again. So if we're always going to be actively engaged in something, then try to get in the game where, sure, I am going for destination, but it's all about who I'm becoming. And if I love who I'm becoming along the way, I will get to my destination. And before I get there, I've got to already know where I'm headed next.
So this is interesting because I think a lot of people have goals and want things, but how do you go from wanting something to really wanting it?
Well, first of all, everyone has to understand that we don't get what we want. No one gets what they want. They get what they need. So when bad things happen to you and they've happened in the past, in some sick, twisted way, you need that to happen. And it's usually byproduct of faulty prior unconscious programming where you made a decision. You take a child who's wanted something really bad, a pair of shoes, and mom looked at the child with malice and said, we don't have money for that. What is the real lesson of the takeaway? That we don't have money for that? No, I think that child is connecting a new concept around money to an idea that it's limited, that it's scarce, that there's not enough of it, and that it's something to be angry about.
Yeah.
So what is that child going to do when they become an adult? This child is not going to become the fountain of abundance. They're not going to grow money trees. They have to overcome a hurdle first, which is their own self-imposed limiting belief. This notion that money is hard to get, and then when you get, it doesn't stay, and there's never going to be enough of it, and there's a negative energy surrounding it. And most children get that out of life. Most of us come from poverty, so we adopt our parents' impoverished mindset, and then when we become adults, who else are we supposed to be? Unless you can break that chain and correct it by becoming a transitional character, you have to throw yourself deep into some new school of thought where you can fully immerse yourself. For me, I came from, constant debt. My parents fighting about credit card debt, fighting about money. Then I marry into my family with my wife, whose parents never spent money on anything because they believed that we have money because we don't spend our money. And so these two clashing ideas, and I tried them both on. I said, I don't really like going without, and I really don't like fighting. So I need to find a new way. And so I found mentors that had made millions, and then they showed me a new game, and I mastered that game, and everything changed for me.
Okay, Kris, you just talked about full immersion, but what does that look like? How do you achieve that?
Okay, so let's just say that you've always wanted to learn Italian. Yeah. You have two choices. You get Rosetta Stone for the Italian language, and you're going to spend 90 days listening to this audio program and repeating things back, and you're going to learn how to speak Italian.
Kind of.
Or you can just get on a plane and go to Italy and refuse to speak English. Who's going to learn the language better? Nothing is
latter.
as powerful as full immersion. And for me, I can't stand wasting time, which means that if the commitment has to be worthy of the decision, then I'm always going to choose the most extreme path to get to outcome, because I'm afraid of trying and failing, because that trains a way of life that isn't good for us, which means that I'm going to say no to everything. But the moment I say yes, I'm playing the hot lava game. My life is on the line. If I step out of line, I'm going to die. If I don't achieve this thing by the end of the night, it's over for me, right? It's like I'm living with fear of death minus the fear, and I don't want to die. I don't want to lose. So I always lean into immersion. So anytime you want to learn something, you should ask, what's the most immersive version of that? Like some of us find, like I do, mentors, gurus, specialists, experts, people that have dedicated their life to a niche understanding of something. And I'm going to tell you right now, you can read their books, and that's like Rosetta Stone, or you can figure out when their next live event is, upgrade to VIP and sit front row. And while you're there, turn off your phone and be entirely fully present. In that immersive environment, you will get no less than 100 times more than reading a book. And it's not just that you're getting more, the experience will give you something that a book never will. These events, when they're fully immersive, with any mentor, they give you so much energy that they lead to a high likelihood of action. Books usually don't lead to action, they lead to inspiring thoughts. And so if you want something, you have to ask yourself, what's the most dramatic, immersive course of action that I can take? Otherwise, it's just not worth my time, because there's too high of a risk of putting effort in and not getting a result.
Okay, so what if someone wanted to get that with you?
There's a couple of different ways that people go for something immersive with me, because people, my Rosetta Stones are out there. You can get my, you can get my books and my audiobooks. Frankly, in some ways, even my courses that have really great success rate with people that apply them is really useful. But I've noticed that the moment someone comes to my private event center and spends 3 days with me, we're talking about like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Like these are fully immersive days. And my particular events are not lecture style. They are experiential. So when someone does that, they muster the kind of energy that when they follow up 90 days later, they've bought an asset that's producing, they're doing something different. And that's why I love live events. I make so much money not doing live events that live events isn't really a moneymaker in the company. I mean, it's not trivial, it's meaningful, but it's not how we maximize our ROI. So for me, the whole reason why I put on the event is because that's where our culture ignites. That's where we come together. And it's because I can't gyp the world. How much can you get from a 30-second Kris Krohn TikTok? Even if you try to string 1,000 of them together versus actually sitting in the actual event, doing the exercises and having feelings and experiences and breakthroughs that will leave you never the same way again. Now you join a community like that, you commit yourself to a course of action that you follow through with. Now life is never going to be the same again.
We've started hiring people that attend Unleash Your Financial Destiny.
Oh my gosh, it is so, are they not the best people on the planet?
Motivated
what a
after
hack.
attending that event.
Yeah.
And I just have to do a shameless plug, kriskrohn.com/UFD live. You'll find the dates for our next one. We do 3 a year.
Yeah, they sell out.
They're getting sold out more and more.
You got to do some advanced planning.
And come on out and experience it live with Kris. It's incredible. You go deep, and it's not what the expression that's thrown around the offices. It's not your average real estate event.
Yeah, not at all. I guess at the end of the day, if we want to button this up, I take a look at our approach to life, and you have to pause and yes, I'm going to go there. I'm going to say, what's the purpose of life? And I don't mean that, from a religious or a spiritual connotation completely, but I'm really asking, what do you believe the purpose of life is? And I'm going to suggest a purpose that isn't going to fit for everyone, but man, my whole world is built on it. I am here to grow. I came here with a near blank slate supercomputer that is more powerful than any tech and AI on the planet. AI might be able to learn crap and Google answers and learn how to do activities, but I've got access to inspiration. I've got access to make choices with my agency to produce novelty in my life, and I can pretty much do anything that I want. What a gift life is to be able to access a brain like that. So what are we supposed to do with it? I always like to ask people what their career is, because one of the things that I like to do is I like to understand the side benefits of a career. For example, if I'm a mechanic and let's say I make $60 an hour. Well, what are the benefits? Benefits are if my car breaks down, I can probably save thousands of dollars and fix my own rig. But then I ask, where's that person going to be 10 years from now if they stay in this lane? A mechanic earning $90 an hour? Like, where's the growth in that? No wonder people in situations like that where they're not challenged and they're not learning new things, over time, my experiences become more nasty, more crotchety, less fulfilled, and they don't have meaning in their life. Relationships dissolve and deteriorate, so does their body. And it's because it starts with their mind. They're not challenged. What we all really honestly want, and what we're chasing, all the things that we're saving up money to buy, all the things that we do with our time, the common denomination in all of them is we're chasing a feeling. And we want to feel a certain way. And I'm not just talking about the moments where we want heightened pleasure. I think we're chasing fulfillment, which you can't buy except through only making certain life choices. So no one wants regret. The opposite of regret is fulfillment. And fulfillment can only come from, I believe, a lifelong commitment to growth. And if you challenge yourself a little bit, you're already on your way out the door on happiness. You're not going to find everything life has to offer. This is an extreme point of view, but I'm here for max growth. I want to have it all. Literally. The name of the show is, I want the best, strongest, fittest, most capable, energetic, sexiest body. I want the smartest, most intelligent mind that is constantly growing, acquiring new knowledge, wisdom from experience, being challenged to level up and upgrade. And I want the sweetest, most pure, beautiful relationships filled with loyalty and commitment, undying resolve to be our absolute best, most connected selves. Whether we're talking about my partner, my children, or even the stranger I pass on the street, I want the best of all possible things. And while I think that idea is part of what unites people to want to watch this podcast or this content, it's because I think that we feel that there is, in fact, truth to that we are striving for greatness and that it's out there. We're either living a life where we're pursuing it or we're not. And I'm not interested in any life that doesn't result in the very best version of me.